We could all do with a little bit of empathy. The world would be a better place for it. Empathy is the ability of a person to emulate an emotion experienced by another person. When you look at a picture of a person who is crying, you can almost guess how it feels for them to experience such a negative emotion, because you've experienced it yourself. Sympathy is a variant of empathy in which you feel bad for the suffering of another person or thing, and you foster this drive to help them. Society needs empathy and sympathy in order to function properly, because these emotions motivate us to help and support each other, and to be considerate toward one another. The main reason we feel sympathy for the suffering of another person is due to the fact that we know there's always a chance that we may fall into the same circumstances and experience the same thing that they're going through. If we all develop empathy, we'll be more conscious in how we treat others and be less likely to inflict suffering on other people, knowing that we might be treated the same way as they do at some point in the future. The golden rule has always been to treat others the way you want to be treated, and it's a golden rule for a reason. All actions have consequences, and there's a high chance you'll be the one to experience them firsthand. So mutual empathy and sympathy are crucial for survival and well-being of all life forms. But what if I told you that having sympathy for the suffering of a person or thing can also become a bad thing? If you're familiar with non-duality, you can probably guess where the rest of this video is going. If you don't know much about the philosophy, there are a few ideas I want to share with you. According to Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia, sympathy is also believed to be based on the principle of the powerful helping the vulnerable, the young, the elderly, the sick. This desire to help the vulnerable has been suggested by many to stem from paternalistic motives to protect and aid children and the weak. In other words, the sympathy that you feel when witnessing the suffering of the weak, sick, and elderly is ultimately a survival mechanism that was programmed in your DNA. We as tribal beings depend on other members of the tribe to live. If our tribe is dying off, we'll also be affected. If the IRS suddenly stops banging on your front door at the beginning of the month, you might be happy at first, but then you feel uneasy because it might mean the government has collapsed, because you didn't pay your taxes, and society is falling apart. The instinctual drive to help another person in need is a response to the threat of potential suffering and death that is waiting for us. If our fellow beings are in trouble, there's always a chance that we're also in trouble. We feel sympathy for others because we ourselves fear pain and our own extinction as individuals, so we're reaching out to help others for selfish reasons, driven by our own animal conditioning. Studies also show that such behavior is self-satisfying because helping someone or something that is connected to you through some way, family, social, racial, as biological life forms, often results in a personal reward, like material gains and status. A group of scientists carried out an experiment in which they put a dog and a stranger in a cage. The stranger was tasked to talk, hum, and fake cry in front of the dog. The dog didn't react to most of the actions except the last, where they approached the stranger to nuzzle up against them. I thought it was pretty wholesome when I first read this. However, the result implies that dogs can potentially feel empathy for humans, but there was also another suggestion that the dog's reaction was a conditioned response because in previous generations, they were rewarded for such behavior. In the same manner, we might also exhibit sympathy to other people because deep down we might be doing it for our own gains. Sometimes our motivations can be more abstract than just money and fame. We might be doing it to become a better person or to build a better image of our own ego. Even when we do not expect others to be aware of our good deeds, to obtain knowledge and wisdom, to experience happiness. If we believe in a higher power, we might only help others so that we can be rewarded spiritually, or to acquire good karma that will alleviate the suffering in our own life. Even when we want to help someone out of unconditional love and altruism, we're acting from a place of selfishness because our good deed gives us joy, and we're helping others just so we could experience more of this positive feeling. The reasons I just gave you show how sympathy can be motivated by selfishness, but this might not be a bad thing. The main reason why sympathy can become a sin is in the way you perceive people who are suffering. When you look at a person, animal, or object, you're looking at a false representation of absolute infinity or nature. When you look at another person who is suffering and you take what you're seeing to be an objective, absolute reality, you're only sustaining the illusion that the person you're looking at is a finite being who is subject to real suffering, another finite attribute, even though he or she is absolute infinity. How can nature suffer if nature creates everything and is everything, including suffering itself? In a sense, having sympathy for another person or any other biological life form that is suffering can become a sin because you're denying their true nature as absolute infinity and reducing them to an illusory, finite form of being who do not have the answers to their own problems, even though they created everything themselves. If you want all beings to transcend suffering, the best thing you can do is change how you view all finite forms of existence and recognize that they and nature are one and are beyond all possible limitations. Society still needs sympathy and empathy in order to ensure its own survival. We need to have these traits so that we can be considerate to the people around us and have a reason to take actions in order to improve the lives and well-being well-being of everyone. At the same time, sympathy can also become a disservice to the world because it denies its receiver of his or her true nature as absolute infinity and maintains their illusory appearance of a helpless, finite being, subject to suffering and death. Sympathy is a survival tool that was designed to remind us as individuals of our own interdependence, but it's a tool nonetheless, and not the absolute truth. So the next time you want to help and support, or to simply be nice to someone, don't do it from a place of pity, but do so as an act of worship and celebration of the receiver's true nature as the all, the everythingness, the one who is beyond all finite experiences and concepts. Do this to everyone and everything, everyone you love, hate, pity, or even people you feel indifferent toward. It's okay if you forget from time to time. I forget these ideas all the time as well. In the end, we're all human, and it's all just part of the script, so let's just role play. All in all, don't try to speedrun sympathy, because it can quickly become another form of self-deception and vice.